It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I got to tell you, one of my favorite tweets of the day, the House Republicans at House GOP tweeted out, Hunter Biden's laptop is real. What the heck is that? What kind of, it's real. It's one of those things like they're trying to convince themselves, I think, maybe, or I don't actually know. I just saw it and I'm going, and? What? It's real. Trust us. No. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the fun, ridiculous, idiotic reality show day that we've had today. I've asked our good friend Sarah Burris to come back. She's a reporter over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website where you can check out her work. Sarah, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, good to be here.
So what do you make of Hunter Biden's laptop? It's real, Sarah. It's real.
You know, I watched that entire committee hearing, and the one thing that I couldn't help but notice is it seems a lot like the Republicans are sort of talking as if everybody in the world watches Fox News. Everybody in the world knows all of the conspiracy theories, and they're in on all of the QAnon stuff. And so for those of us who don't know and who aren't engrossed in that community, it just seemed very confusing. Like, none of it really made sense today. None of it was organized. And you had Democrats really on message kind of just saying, this is stupid. The government's about to shut down. This is stupid. The government's about to shut down, over and over and over again.
And that is the message. This is stupid.
Yeah.
The government's about to shut down.
Yeah. And that was the most interesting thing is, so we talked to a couple of Republicans who were on the committee outside the committee room and just kind of said, you know, how do you feel like things are going? And they're like, well, and it became very clear that they just sort of automatically admit that this is not a legitimate impeachment. They're saying that this is, well, it's just the preliminary stages. We're just trying to make the argument.
Yeah,
right.
and Turley let that out of the bag right in his opening statement, going, look, this is an impeachment. There's no evidence for that. So basically admitting this is just a fishing expedition. They're hoping they might uncover something. They don't know. They're just digging and digging and digging, and they're going to try and impeach his reputation, not him as a president.
And how is that any different from what we have seen in the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee for the last 8-9 months? Because it seems exactly the same to me. Yeah. The inquiry is the same as the hearings. The difference is that today the Republicans brought in their own witnesses who were like, yeah, you guys don't have it. It's like, thanks. Really helpful. Really appreciate that one.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you bring people in? And look, as I said a moment ago, the reality is this is the difference between going on Fox News and Newsmax and, you know, right-wing talk radio and putting your hand up and swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me under law. You know, the God thing, okay, you know, sure, maybe they could care about that. But it's the law thing they really care about because they don't want to go to jail, so they're going to tell the truth. And the truth is, there's nothing here.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that you have these people who, you know, John Turley, who appears on Fox all the time. So I think they automatically assumed, oh, he's one of us. He's one of the QAnon people, right? And yet when they ask him, you know, does this reach the requirements for impeachment? And he's like, no. And it's just like, well, I mean, you kind of, it's kind of like the rule for court lawyers, as they say, never ask never ask a witness to testify unless you know what they're going to say.
Yep.
That's pretty much what happened today. Is these folks had no clue what any of these people were going to say. They assumed they did, And they thought that they were going into this and it would just be this beautiful Fox News, nicely packaged show. And it was just a catastrophe.
Yeah, so badly that Fox and Newsmax turned away and went back to their regularly scheduled programming.
That was the best part. I mean, they really gave it a good go for most of the day. I think like whenever I turned over to see what was on when they were doing the Biden speech, all of the networks were doing the Biden speech except for Fox. They were showing the committee hearing, and so it's like, okay, well, they're not going to show Biden, but they will show the train wreck. So there you go.
No, and look, I hope that all of the MAGA hats, I hope all the red hats saw the nothing that was there, the embarrassment that was this hearing, because it really was embarrassing. There was literally nothing other than innuendo and unsubstantiated allegations. Or
it's
lies,
true. It
like
seems like one of the. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I really wish we could get to a point where we just call people lying liars who lie and stop sort of, shifting around it. But today, basically, the Republicans were like, well, guys, there was this dude who, had a friend who was in the Chinese Communist Party, and he had a sister who went out with Biden 75 years ago, and then they had she had a daughter from another marriage who served him a soda once at a diner. And it's just like, what? Like, really? And I do this every day, right? Like, I read this stuff all the time, and I was like, wait, what? Where are you going?
Nowhere.
And so I think that's one of the reasons that Republicans were just like, yeah, no, we screwed up. This is a complete catastrophe. And most of them admitted it, and the leadership is furious. And meanwhile, we talked to one of the Democrats, Representative Stevens from Michigan. We're like, hey, did you watch the hearing? What happened today? And she was like, you guys, I was just trying to avoid the shutdown. We're working so hard, trying to figure this thing out behind the scenes and make this work because people are about to not get paid. Yeah. And we're trying our hardest to stop this.
And that's the message tomorrow. So that's the message going forward here. The message is look, in the hours that we had left before a shutdown, look what they did. And what they've shown us is they don't work well with others or themselves. I mean, that's the weird part in all this. They cannot seem how to figure out how to work with anyone, let alone themselves.
Definitely. And then you have people like the Problem Solvers Caucus who are showing up on Tapper's show who are like, oh, we're trying to come to an agreement. It's like, oh, I have an agreement for you. How about 5 of you just decide to move over and support truth and reality and say that you'll support the government agreement or even the CR at this point, right? Like even the Senate Republicans are like, please, for the love of God, give us a continuing resolution.
Yeah.
And, that's just, I don't understand why that is not a solvable solution to the problem solvers.
Well, because you've got too many of the kook caucus, the Scott Perrys of the world, who want their pound of flesh. They want their pain and misery. And they want to punish poor people and working people because that's who they are. And they're not going to move. And you've got leadership, Kevin McCarthy, who sold his soul to be speaker, and is just one guy away from being ousted. So there's going to be no compromise on that side of the aisle that would bring Democrats around to be able to support something.
I think it would be super interesting if McCarthy just said, yeah, fine, screw it, vote to remove me from the chair, and made a deal with the Democrats and basically said, okay, I got 5, 6, 10 Republicans who are willing to be rational, and we're just going to make it work.
Never happened.
And then they would vote to put him back in the chair.
Never happened because he would then get the ire of the kook caucus and all of the red hats who come along with that.
It's true. It really is true. And he has to choose between his own ego and saving the country. And I think we know which one he's going to choose.
No, he's going to choose the power over doing what's right. But I did find it interesting that Representative Greg Casser of Texas asked, all the people on the oversight committee, raise your hand if you believe that both Hunter and Trump should be held accountable if there are any indictments, if they're convicted. And not one Republican raised their hand.
Half of them were out of the room, and more than half of them. That's the crazy thing, is that a whole bunch of those Republicans didn't even show up today. And that was a genius move, because that was the picture, right?
Yeah.
That was the one piece of data that we can show where it's like, even Democrats say, you know what, Donald Trump deserves a fair trial, just like Hunter Biden does. And even Republicans can't say that. It's so funny.
No, I had someone ask me, because, we were talking about, Trump's indictments. He goes, well, what about Hunter Biden? I go, if he's guilty, he goes to jail. How hard is that?
Yeah.
Same thing. Well, what about Menendez? Same thing. If he's guilty, he goes to jail. I don't understand how hard that is. I mean, if I break the law, I'm going to jail.
Yeah, it turns out, people like us, we don't get away with stuff.
No, we sure
I wasn't here with you last week, but the Lauren Boebert thing. My question with her is, what was she smoking in that vape pen? Right? Because Hunter Biden was lying on a form for saying, for getting a gun because he was using drugs. Well, if Lauren Boebert is using drugs, she sure has a whole lot of guns.
Yeah, she does.
So why is that not equal?
Well, you could argue she wasn't doing it while lying on the form.
That is true, but she was still using.
Yeah, well, I got more problems with her than that. But you did jog my memory of what I wanted to talk about with you last week, and then much to my brain deadness, you weren't here. Project Syphilis went under.
Yes, it did.
And I thought of you when I saw that, and I'm like, there's got to be no one happier than my good friend Sarah Burris to see Project Syphilis, Project Veritas, whatever, to see them go down.
And what's funny is, when that news broke, it's like my phone just blew up with people being like, oh my God, did you see? Because it really is. It's like, wow, all of these people who tried to scare the heck out of me and follow me and stalk me and jump out at me, and like, it's finally like, okay, well, at least they're out of a job. The sad thing is that I'm going to assume that there's going to be some other organization that pops up.
It'll be worse.
I think what's his name is already hooked up with Charlie Kirk. So, it's going to be another well-funded operation where they do sketchy stuff, but they've been so useless since they had the Acorn scandal, and that's really it. That's all they got. Everything else that they have tried to do has failed so horribly.
Yep.
And I think as a donor, you got to ask yourself, why am I giving money to this?
Just to cause trouble. Look, the right understands it. Richard Mellon Scaife gave one of the Pittsburgh newspapers, what was it, a couple $1 million a year just to go cause trouble, and that kept them in right wing craziness for years. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show with Sarah Burris. Sarah's a reporter at Raw Story. If you want to check out her work, rawstory.com, the website where you can find that. I got to get your thoughts on Tommy Tuberville. Yes, the dumbest guy in the Senate, and yes, I'm going to continue to say that because I still think he's the dumbest guy in the Senate. But he said that, and I quote, "There is nobody up here more military than me," while sitting on the same platform as Senator Mark Kelly and Senator Tammy Duckworth. Thoughts? Let's go there.
I think this is Tommy Tuberville has done the most incredible thing in American history, and that is bring the military together with the Democrats. He has completely destroyed the relationship between the military and Republicans. Every time Republicans allow this to continue, it's just, looping in his campaign into their party, and I don't understand why they're allowing it to happen. And the only thing that I can think is maybe McConnell really has lost his mind, because if McConnell had his wits about him, he'd be like, sit down, shut up. Like, that was the old McConnell. The old McConnell ran things like an iron fist, and now it's just like he's letting Tuberville run roughshod all over everything. So, it's just the weirdest thing ever. But hey, again, Republicans want to shut down the government, and that means not paying a whole bunch of soldiers, not paying a lot of people who are fighting our wars and defending our country and working at the Pentagon. One of the things that they demand on the shutdown agreement list is they want to defund the FBI.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're going to defund the police, and while we're waiting for it, we're going to stop paying soldiers. We're going to stop taking care of veterans. It's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, have you really lost your minds?
Yes.
And yes, they have.
Yeah. Now I do think Tammy Duckworth had a really good response to this. She tweeted out, quote, no one is more military than me, says a man who has never served a day in his life in a room with several actual veterans. Is he serious? And yeah, he actually is. That's how far off the beaten path these folks are.
You got to wonder how many times that guy's been hit in the head, because
obviously not enough.
Yeah, that's just not rational.
Obviously not enough. Lastly, I got to get to your thoughts on Biden went to Michigan, walked on the picket line, historic, first time president's ever done that. And then Trump followed the day after and had a bunch of fraudulent union members and fraudulent workers put on a skit, for a little bit of reality TV for America. Any thoughts on the two?
That is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. I mean, as somebody who used to work in unions, like, watching your president walk a picket line is like the most heartening thing ever. It's just like, yes, finally we have a president who cares about workers. And that is the most perfect contrast, I think, is to Donald Trump, who couldn't even get the non-union workers to show up. They got a couple of them, but they still couldn't fill the room with the non-union workers. Most of them were just like, yeah, no, I'm out. I'm good. I'm not going to come. And so they had a packet with a bunch of his just regular everyday supporters waving signs, pretending like they're in a union, pretending like they're working in the auto industry. And it's just like, wow, that is the biggest lie I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was remarkable, because I was looking at the crowd and I'm going, there is no way that woman works on an assembly line. There's no way that guy is anywhere near an assembly line. And you're going through this going, none of these people work for a living.
Yep. And I mean, you could tell by the clothes they were wearing, you could tell just the way that they behaved. Like, union people are so normal, like they're just like us, and these people were very uppity and you're just like, nope, not human.
Yeah, I know. But for me, what the interesting part was is, look, it was a fraud is what we saw. And for a guy who, to be quite honest, got the death penalty in New York for the Trump organization because of fraud, I don't know that you commit more fraud. That's
Donald Trump right there. It is double down on everything yeah, there's nothing else to double down on.
Double down on the fraud. I know I said last thing, but Gungate. Did he buy a gun?
No. His campaign said that he didn't. I would not be surprised if he had somebody else buy the gun for him, or the gun shop owner gave it to him.
That's where I'm going. There's no way he bought anything. For
no,
Trump,
he didn't
a mob
pay for
wannabe
that.
guy, everything's on the arm. He's not digging into his pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Sarah, I appreciate the time. Always fun, always entertaining. Thanks so much.
Have a good day tomorrow.
You as well, our good friend Sarah Burris. Make sure you check out her work. Rawstory.com is where you find that. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW. The right choice.
I gotta tell you, one of my favorite moments from the hearing. Now, understand, half the people didn't bother showing up because I don't think they wanted to be part of this charade. They're on board. Hey, we got to go after Biden. We got to make it look like like he did something because we got to make dear leader happy. But Chuck Edwards, the Republican representative from North Carolina's 11th congressional district. Wow. And I gotta play Chuck trying to get his he's trying. Hey, look, he's trying. And that's, I guess that's all we can ask for is for Chuck just to try.
Kenneth Rakishev is a Kazakhstani oligarch who was a director at Kazakhstan's state-owned oil company. Importantly, Rakishev maintains ties to Karim Mazamov.
So, I mean, when you listen to that, you go, is he just, he can't say oligarch? I mean, seriously, can't say oligarch? And did he not practice this speech before he went on? Or the internet thinks he was bombed. And I guess, this would be an entertaining way to spend this ridiculous, nonsensical day in a hearing. You might as well be 3 sheets to the wind. Have a couple of cocktails, take the edge off. Because that's the only way I think I could get through it without losing my mind. Which is what some folks did, and the internet got all crazy about a couple of people who yelled and screamed. But at the end of the day, who should be yelling and screaming? You and me, us, because they are going to shut our government down, and that means millions of people are going to be affected. Millions of people are going to be negatively affected. In fact, you had one representative, in fact, Summer Lee, a representative here from Pennsylvania, who went through, each of the people on that committee's districts and said, they're going to be, 4,000 people from this person's district, 5,000 people from this person's district who are not going to get paychecks because of the actions that are not being taken right now, because of the wasted time of sitting in a ridiculous impeachment inquiry. But understand, this isn't about getting Biden out. It's not. It's about angering the base. And what was said a minute ago by Sarah Burris is actually pretty interesting. She said, you watched it and, they presented it like everyone was in on all the conspiracies. And that's because this wasn't for us. This wasn't for normal reasoning Americans. This wasn't for logical Americans. This wasn't for people who aren't in the Q-kook, MAGA hat, red hat wearing crowd. This was for those people. This was for the people who drank the Kool-Aid and, a lot of it. This was kind of their Super Bowl, so that they could come back, and I had it happen. They could come back and say, Biden's being impeached. And I had to then remind them that, no, he's not being impeached. This is an inquiry. Even their witnesses are saying, no, this isn't an impeachment. There's no evidence for an impeachment. This is an inquiry. We're going to go digging for stuff. Now, how do you think the right would have acted had, I don't know, the Democrats said, we don't have anything on Trump, but we do want to dig into all of his business records and all of the shady dealings that everyone knew he was doing, and he is now being held accountable for. But did it back, when he took office. How do you think the right would have responded? They'd have lost their minds. But that isn't what Trump was impeached for. Trump was impeached for that perfect phone call of telling Zelensky, no, we just need you to say that you're looking into something. We'll take it from there. We just need some dirt on that Biden guy. And then, of course, January 6th. Inciting violence and attempting to, overthrow our democracy and, undo, a couple hundred years of peaceful transitions of power. Yeah, just little things like that. Little things. Quick break, right back.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We have done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials, creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.